As we both try to do horses.
Right.
Horses do have some big, powerful lips, though.
Yes, they do.
All right. What is that? Season 2, episode 13, right?
13.
Welcome to the Elk Season Podcast, Season 2, episode 13. Today is May 18th, 2023. It is 103 days until elk season. And if you lose only 1 pound a week, every week until elk season, you will not lose 15 pounds.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah. So if you haven't started now,
Yeah, you're behind.
You better get after it. And leg day, oh, forget it. Get after some leg day.
I did I don't know if you'd call it a leg day, but I poured a concrete slab out on the side of my house.
Yeah.
And I'd used a technique that I saw on the internet that inspired me. The way
Great.
That makes me go, I could do that. And it's called a dry pour.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I got it all mocked up, and then I filled it all up, and I'm having a hell of a time trying to get this thing screeded off. And finally, I kind of get to a point where, like, you know what, I think it's good. So I wet it down the way that you're supposed to, and after the first couple mists, I recognized that there's a flaw. There's a window well, not a window well, but a vent well in the back of this thing, and it was too low. So it screeded low at the house and screeded high up at the front. So it's sloped right from the house, except for this one spot. So I get it all sort of cured up, and I went and I bought some more concrete sand, but I've got it all leveled off, and now I have a shed on it. But the point I'm getting at is this. 24 bags of 80-pound concrete that I brought home.
How's your lower back?
I was quite impressed with how much pain I felt after doing that task.
Just that task.
It just went through every muscle in my body that I had clearly not used for the last 24 years.
Yeah.
But it's, I've kept kind of doing stuff, yard work, and I keep going at it. So,
We had, when we built our fence in Nampa, we had a pallet of cement delivered.
Yeah.
And it was going to rain.
Oh, goodness.
And they dropped that pallet in our driveway.
Oh, no.
I had to move every bag about 10 feet. Every bag on that pallet.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
I still remember how much my lower back hurt.
Yeah, I
just lift, move.
I had them pull the pallet up to my trailer, and I just scooped them off the pallet. So that was a pretty easy job at the store. But getting home, I grabbed my hand cart, and I did 2 bags at a time moving it from the cart. And you would have even loved that had you had it.
Oh,
I know.
God, that's a lot of trips.
Yeah, it is.
That's a lot of work. That's a lot of steps.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's good for you. Good for you. Yeah.
But I was, and I've got a nice red burn across my lower back because I've been down on the ground doing all this concrete stuff.
Yeah.
So,
is that officially a plumber's tan?
Yeah, I think so. I got a plumber's tan.
I'm gonna go ahead and call it that. I went on my my gold excursion, gold prospecting excursion to the Burnt River in Oregon, Eastern Oregon.
Yep.
And had some fun camping, really, is what it was. That was just my wife's gone. She's out of town this week and next week.
Okay.
She should be back on Tuesday, but then she's in Orlando this week. She's got to go to someplace in California next week. And so I'm like, hey, before you leave, it's going to be May. The weather should be nice. I'm going to go somewhere and do something. So that's what my prospecting trip was really about.
Okay.
Is, hey, I gotta cash in these vacation credits that sort of accumulate in a marriage.
Yeah.
Because if you don't use them soon enough, it's like, you can't dig up that hatchet.
Yeah,
we're
can't.
We're not doing that.
The only thing you get to trade those in for later is for the same sweaters and shirts that your wife and you would wear.
Yeah.
So you got to use them up earlier. You're going to be doomed to that.
Right. So I just try to keep things in balance. Knowing that, I still say, remember, I save some of this for elk season. She's gone for 2 weeks. I was gone for 2 nights. Okay. I go, hey, this is just a down payment on elk season. Because she knows elk season is off limits.
Yeah.
September. I know I've said this before, but I have a 21-year-old autistic child. We have done autism workouts for her at the gym my wife runs.
Yeah.
But when they were in September, I said, count me out.
Yeah.
I said, listen, I am that child's father. I support her every month except September.
Sorry.
No, I support her. I do all this stuff, but they had the autism workout in April, like it should be,
Yeah.
And then they changed it because they didn't want that workout to interfere with the CrossFit Games. So when the CrossFit Games are over, go ahead and do your workout. Well, the CrossFit Games ends in August.
Yikes.
So they go, okay, it's over. Let's have the autism WOD. You know what? Anyways. I don't want to complain too much. I just want everyone to know how important September is to me.
Muy importante.
Muy mucho, which does not translate. I asked my Spanish teacher when I was in college, can you say very much? Can you say muy mucho? And he just laughed at me.
Huh.
Anyway, he goes, no, it doesn't try. I go, oh, well, it makes sense to me.
So coincidentally, I don't know why I feel like I need to plug this in there, but my oldest boy has a job.
Really?
He's there right now.
Really? Where's he working?
Blaze Pizza.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I finally tried Blaze Pizza after all this time.
Yeah.
'Cause I've never been there. It is not bad.
No, it's good stuff, man.
Yeah. So.
It's like a, it's a franchise. It's franchise.
Yeah. He calls it the Subway of pizza.
Yeah. That's pretty good. Yeah. Subway pizza. That is catchy.
Yeah.
That is catchy.
So anyway, just throwing that out there for whatever reason, no reason at all. We have some things to talk about today. We don't have a long list.
No.
There's some historical things. A gigantic fish catch in Colorado, which we probably talked about before, but I saw it in my flipping, so I brought it up. Something about the Tetons has changed.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Something about buffalo and their habitat and what they do to a habitat versus cattle.
Yes.
I have a follow-up to our last conversation about the grizzly bear that was found dead outside Yellowstone.
Yeah.
So we'll get to all
and
of
I have
that.
another grizzly bear story.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And there's another grizzly bear. So there's a few things out there.
And we do have a wolf story.
Yeah.
Did we have any elk stories this week?
Here's what I'll say, and I think maybe this is a way to segue at least to a little bit. There's a place where we drive up through Haley and Sun Valley.
Yeah.
Where when we're driving to location, there's a whole vast world out there. So it's not like we're revealing any location, but there's a place on Highway 75.
Yeah, between Haley and Ketchum, right?
Haley and Ketchum, where you always see elk. We saw that big bull crossing with his
all
cows
the time.
one
They
time.
actually have a reduced nighttime speed limit.
Yeah.
Because of interactions with wild
elk and
animals,
deer,
mostly elk. Yeah.
And so right there at that place where we tend to see the elk, there's a flood warning that's been issued.
Yeah.
And so as they call it, the Gimlet area.
Yeah.
So
this is a good segue into the big melt, because we told everybody we'd be following the big melt all the way through. It looks like it's peaked.
Yeah,
it's really good. It's really, really good.
It didn't happen too fast, but it's still causing, there's a lot of water, so we got to be careful.
We're getting lots of water. There aren't these makeshift rivers of sandbags through all these downtown Salt Lake cities. All these different areas that they had them that I was generally worried about. There was a few stories where the construction areas that were undercut by running water, and there was a newly constructed home that succumbed to a mudslide. But and there's a few rivers and a little bit of damage, but we've been looking for all this snow to melt for a long time. Now we do have 2 days, another weekend of 90s, 90 degrees,
and it's pretty toasty out there today
right now. So if it doesn't happen in the next 7 days, I'd say we're out of the woods.
Yeah.
I'd say we're safe from major flooding as this record amount of snowfall.
Yeah.
Record amount in Utah.
What they
finally
say,
starts to melt.
The Salt Lake has already raised by like 4 feet.
9 is what I heard.
9.
Maybe it was 90, the other one you were telling me about.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Oh. I thought somebody told me Lake Mead or Lake Powell went up 90 feet already.
I don't know about that.
Oh, I thought that was you. Anyways,
I think they were predicting a 90-foot surge at one of them, but
okay. So yeah, the Great Salt Lake is up substantially. It's up everywhere.
Yeah.
It's just going to be up. So and hopefully, and I haven't seen anything too severe coming out of Southern California either. and I really expected to see more. And I'm not even looking at their weather forecast, though.
Yeah.
I checked the Utah weather forecast. That's enough Intermountain Northwest, but as far as the southern Sierra Nevadas go, I'm not as concerned for their snowmelt.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm sure there's still some ski resorts open.
It's crazy. What we had, Bogus Basin was open. It's like second longest ever.
Yeah.
This year,
just outside of Boise.
Yeah.
You ever been there?
I have not.
Oh man,
I've only been to a handful of ski resorts.
There is something so spectacular about miles and miles of cars winding uphill to do the same thing, to stand in line behind hundreds and hundreds of people.
Wow.
Who overpaid for a lift ticket. And anyways, it's depressing. It's depressing. You think, skiing, I'm in the mountains, fresh air. Nobody ever comes up here. And you see, there's no room in this parking lot.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
so anyways, it's just
with heavy snowfall, though, one of the things we also talk about, we do tend to cover, and this is an elk story, so to speak.
Okay.
The winter kill, right?
Yeah.
So how hard is the winter on the animals? What does it do to the herd numbers? And so this submission you brought this week has something to do with some bulls that were killed in the winter, and they're just kind of laying there in the field. Yeah.
So you have typical winters where, yes, there's very deep snow. Yes, it's very difficult for some animals to get food. And sometimes that snow is a little too deep, and sometimes it stays there a little too long, and the animals starve to death.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And it's not the first time I've seen it this year. The first time I saw it this year was in a TikTok of a guy who was riding the cattle range.
Yeah.
Looking to round up cattle or looking for whatever. But he comes across a half a dozen.
Wow.
Big bulls. So big bulls have different behavior than the rest of the herd.
Yeah.
They'll bachelor up over the winter. They'll stay much higher in the mountains. And they're in the deeper snow, and all the cows, some of the bulls, but you see the big bulls on the ridges in much smaller groups typically through the winter months. And when you see wolves chasing bull elk, it's usually there's not cows around.
Yeah.
Unless it's September, a lot of those bulls just stick with the fellas.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Do you want to talk about predators? Let me get this fish out of the way because I feel like we did talk about it. Just a Colorado man caught a world record lake trout.
Yeah.
73 pounds.
73 pounds.
That's huge.
It's so big.
That's as big as my youngest child.
Well, when you put it that way. But can your youngest child swim at all? Mine can barely swim. Look at that fish. It's such an accomplished swimmer. That's amazing. I love seeing all these sportsman's records. The records come in. I see them. Oh, excuse me. Sometimes on TikTok, sometimes just on YouTube or something. But just to see the size of this fish, is ridiculous. It looks photoshopped.
So I talked about 80-pound bags of concrete.
Yeah.
That fish is almost as heavy as one of those bags of concrete.
Geez.
Coincidentally, I asked Vesa last week, I go, did you hear about those guys? Because I can't remember where I saw it. So there was those cheating fishermen.
Yes.
And there was something that came up in the news recently about them because the guy admitted it and he made really dumb mistake. And I go, Vesta, did you hear about this?
Those guys could have got shot.
Yeah.
That was serious.
She's like, no, I didn't. So I pulled up the video and I let her see it. And she's like, oh, and they're pulling out weight after weight. And I don't know how I didn't pick up on this before, but they're pulling out fillets. So they were not just feeding it weights, but they were feeding it fillets or wrapping the weight in fillets. There were fillets of the fish.
Oh, really?
So it wasn't just weight. They were adding flesh too.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And these guys had won like $3 million in tournaments in the previous. Talk about.
There's big money in bass fishing. What a ridiculous thing for there to be lots of money in.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah. And it was
there's
pike,
no money.
It was actually pike fishing, I think, or whatever. in the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just that much money in fishing in general.
Oh,
Just-
yeah. Oh, yeah, in fishing. Yeah, that's right. It wasn't bass, was it?
No, but I get it. I've always wondered, where does that money come from and why?
Yeah. Because a lot of people fish a lot. A lot of people have boats. The earth is more than 75% water. Why don't you have a boat? Boat sponsor. Seriously, it's a good question.
Well, my middle name is Moses.
Why don't I have a boat?
Or not Moses. Sorry.
That's what I keep asking my wife.
Noah. I meant to say Noah. I screwed up my Bible referencing. This is not going to go over well in Sunday school.
No, it's not going to go well at the pearly gates either.
No.
On this date in 2023.
Yeah, anyway. So fishing and money, and I just don't have, it's not that you can, I'm not knocking it. I just don't understand it.
Yeah. So there's different types of trophies. When we talk about elk, I say archery elk is the greatest outdoor sport in North America. And I say that because to get an elk with your bow is such a trophy.
Yeah.
It's such a big deal. Such a lifetime. So many guys try for so many years to accomplish that. And any trophy, like a big lake trout like that, any personal best, right? Oh, there's all these guys I told you about. Hey, what do you think he scores? What do you think this guy scores? It doesn't matter. Anything you harvest with a bow is a trophy. Yeah. And that is a true story. And anything you harvest with a bow, you are going to hold with so much tremendous pride for the rest of your life.
Okay.
That's my personal opinion. You know, I mean, I shot a doe.
The only thing I've shot are rabbits and
you shot that rock chuck. Yeah.
So I just, it's practice. It wasn't really trophy. But I get where you're saying, what you mean by that.
I am still jealous of that rock chuck.
That was a lucky shot.
I was not. Why wasn't I lucky, though? I had a shot before you. See, I'm still jealous.
It's not skill. Who's killed 2 elk with their bow and who's killed none? Who's fallen asleep waiting for the 20?
All right.
I can go all day and show you how much suckier than you I am.
I don't need any help with that. Just kidding. I would attribute it to just more hours spent in the woods, especially as of recent, in the past 2 or 3 years. So having younger kids, you say your kid's going to start football?
He would like to.
Yeah. That's pretty special. I wouldn't want to miss if my kid started football. I'd be like, sorry, kid, it's September. I'm not going. I would go to football games.
So he asks me, he goes, Dad, if I play football, are you going to miss any games?
Yeah. You might miss one. Not important game. It's on the road. You're going to win anyway.
I did. I kind of stumbled through it like I'm doing right now, and I'm just like, I gotta go. Look, I'm sorry. What?
Yeah. They're Friday nights, and
he's so into football right now that he had a football, and I bought him a football recently, and it's already sort of broken, and he keeps getting injured at school because he's playing with his buddies. He's been wearing tape on his fingers because he jammed his fingers. Like, he's really stoked about.
That's awesome.
And he's working hard to get his grades up. So I got to support that. And
Absolutely. You got the rest of your life to hunt elk.
Yeah.
Unless you have kids that want to join football. Just kidding. That's it. You only have a few years to play sports, and it's really good for you. So play sports.
Yeah.
But
hey, if you go to the Tetons this year, you're going to see something different.
Yeah.
This is kind of interesting. Now, I didn't do the best, what would you say, journaling here in terms of screenshots. So I'll give you the best information that I did collect. And so there is a skyline change at the Tetons. So a giant rockfall has changed this iconic, what they call the Cathedral Group view of the Grand Tetons. Tuanot and Mount Owen, what's being called a big chunk of the mountain, fell off last fall, altering the profile of Grand's east ridge so significantly that people can see the difference from the valley floor.
Wow. The very tip broke off, and you can see it from the very bottom.
Yeah.
That's a big break.
Yeah.
Did you by chance happen to see any of the footage from Yosemite? There was another big break in Yosemite.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, just a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
But yes, similar type event. Just big piece of rock breaking loose, and nobody's stopping it.
And there's a town somewhere, I think it's in Europe, somewhere, I think, where there's an entire cliff face that's threatening an entire town.
Oh yeah,
Like they're really nervous about it. So in those European mountain valleys, they're really steep.
Yes, yeah. Interesting.
So,
okay,
where to next? We got. We don't have a lot. We can go wolf. Let's go wolfing.
so this is a cool story.
Yeah.
As wolves are vilified in pop culture, it is stories like this that aid in that vilification.
Do I need to read this?
Yeah. Read the whole thing.
All
It's
right.
not very long.
For many years, the white wolf in this picture. Oh, I guess I for whatever reason when I looked at the picture, I didn't realize it was white. But yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Looks like somebody's. Never mind. I can't think of the dog breed. Okay.
Great Pyrenees.
That's what I was
There you
going
go.
to say. All right.
Yeah, it's pretty white.
This white wolf in this picture destroyed large numbers of livestock in the Judith Basin. Montana. Okay.
Yeah.
Al Close, who killed the wolf in May 1930, is shown here holding the carcass. His dogs are with him. Close was the rancher in the Willow Creek area near... Oh, sorry. His last name is throwing me off. Close.
Yeah, I did the same thing when I read it.
was a rancher in the Willow Creek area near Stanford, Montana. The Montana Cowboy Hall of Fame writes that stockmen across the basin swore the wolf possessed a superior intelligence. He was wise to the smell of steel, they said. He could figure out whether or not the trap was cocked. He'd come within 30 feet of a set trap, but he'd never get any closer. Even if it were buried in the snow or dirt, explained Close, explained Close, sorry. He'd walk right up to it and the one that was sprung and use it for a fire plug, whatever that means. He would walk right up to that one. Hold on, I'm not reading this coherently. He'd walk right up to the... Sorry, I didn't need the fart noise. He'd walk right up to one that was sprung and use it for a fire plug.
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
I think he would use it to fire the other trap. I think.
That's what they're saying. Okay.
Yeah, that's...
When the men gathered in bars, they swapped yarns about the wolf and wagered on how long he would last. Elva Weinman, the librarian in Stanford, wrote articles about the basin's wolf war for the Denver Post and Great Falls Tribune. The Associated Press picked up Elva's stories, and news of the marauding wolf went national. Professional hunters and trappers showed up on horseback and on snowshoes, with airplanes and with dogs. They pursued the wolf. He outwitted them all. So this was a clever pup.
Yeah. And then a little bit of story that continues on the next page.
Oh.
With the one with the picture.
Oh, I see it. Yeah, you're right. So professional hunters and trappers showed up on horseback. It didn't go on anymore.
Oh, okay, that was it.
It was just
Yeah. So it interesting for a creature. Now, when I read two things from Carter Niemeyer's book, Wolfer. Number one is the very, these guys that set traps carry sifters, right? And they put dirt into those sifters and they gently sift dirt over the top of it. They're very, very careful in particular about how they set a trap. Because if you just, I set it and walk away, boy, some dumb luck is going to have to happen to something for that trap to be sprung. It's a very thoughtful process. And because these animals are savvy to it.
Yeah.
Right? And they always will be. Something ain't right.
Yeah, learn behaviors.
Right. It's situational. Like when those elk smelled me. They're on their way to water.
Yeah.
And they smelled me. They couldn't see me. They didn't know where I was, but they're just like, nope, this just isn't safe.
Yeah.
Same thing with the wolf. Getting close to a trap. They go, I know there's meat hanging from a tree, which is exactly what I ordered.
Right.
But something about it is suspicious.
Yeah.
So they'll smell a little bit of the human presence or a little bit of the steel from the trap or something like that. And they absolutely can. Now, so that's one thing from the Carter Niemeyer book. The other thing is from the Decade of the Wolf. and that is the guy who studied the pack dynamics of the wolves after they were reintroduced to Yellowstone.
Yeah.
And how I describe that as just a Game of Thrones. Just the dynamics of, and I would say this was like, Bran or Tyrion Lannister.
Yeah.
Right? Really super high up there wolf. Just exceptionally intelligent. And so that's part of it. That's part of it, to have really smart wolves, and then to have the idea of that wolf capture the imagination of people from across the country.
That's pretty cool.
That's insane. And they came all the way from the East Coast in planes and horses to try to kill this thing.
In horses? I'm sorry.
In planes and in horses. They drove horses. And they drove their bicycles, and they drove everything.
Yeah. My favorite was the unicycler. But
so it just adds to that, the whole idea, the vilification of wolves. First of all, reports that it killed stock are just that. Reports. Yeah.
Hey, we got a photo of a fox found dead last week. No
Yeah.
signs of any injuries. The autopsy was done to discover a balloon in its digestive system.
Yeah. I don't know if that's true. But
yeah, it seems like there's an agenda there.
Yeah, I know.
And I don't
I know.
I'm making a weird connection. I don't like doing this because I don't like calling anybody a Karen, but that's the name of the person who posted this. But the person's last name is your middle name, and so I'm just wondering, was this you? Just antagonizing the internet.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm just trolling. It's a super deep troll. Wait 5 years, I'm going to tell him. He's going to laugh.
Now, I'm not going to speculate that that's what it is, because you have to take everything with a grain of salt, if not a bag of salt, when you get on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
You have to be careful.
Oh, yeah.
Is it possible that wildlife ingest something like a balloon that was released at someone's wake or something? Yeah. That's one of my least favorite things, is to release a balloon into the air. We did it for the 100th anniversary or whatever it was, the Montana Centennial celebration.
1989.
And I remember releasing balloons from my grade school, and it was like, everybody's having fun. But even at that age, I started.
You're like, this has to come down sometime, right?
Yeah. So,
okay, and unless there was bacon grease on the inside of the balloon, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
I worry about the truth.
Yeah, I've seen
the motivation.
I've seen my dog swallow things, and it came right out.
There's a story. There's a family story that mom found a diaper in my balloon in my diaper.
Oh. Now,
so I know.
Just be cautious with what you come across on the internet. That's all.
That's all.
That's all.
I think you know that.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking to somebody today. I was talking to a guy at work who we got a really disturbing phone call. From somebody, from a listener. So I work at this radio station, and there's this really disturbing call. No, I mean, it's like
it's not an obscene phone call.
The kind of red flags that you're like, oh, we need to make sure everybody knows about this guy. I mean, he sounds really angry at somebody. I don't know why he's angry at us.
Okay.
But he's not making any threats, which is what's so threatening about it.
Okay.
You just feel his anger. And so, but he sounded like, and as I'm having this discussion with this coworker, I'm like, hey, have you seen Back to the Future 2? Right? You see, there's this timeline. There's the 1985 timeline.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be on the 1985 timeline, and something happened, and it skewed their version of the future to a different narrative during the same time. I go, what social media has done is it separated us from the true narrative.
Yeah.
Nobody's on the real narrative. We used to talk to our friends and go this side of the narrative, then this side of the narrative, then this side of the narrative. But we'd stay somewhere in the narrative. With social media, once you click, right? Once you click girls, hot girls, oh, now my feed is full of hot girls. Once you click on something angry, then all your feed is full of that angry stuff, and they're motivated to feed you more of it.
Yeah.
And the more angry you get. So I've just sort of called it this this
That's a perfect analogy.
narrative.
I love that.
So we used to be like, oh, we could agree we were this far apart from the truth. Now we're this far apart, and there's no stitching that up, man. That's scary.
Yeah.
So anyway,
we need to deliver more of that message to the world to help them understand their skewed timeline.
It's a hard way. Yeah, if there's a better way to describe it.
That is the best way to describe it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what it makes perfect sense. And we could get Doc Brown in on it.
I think we could.
Great Scott.
Yeah.
So, speaking of Brown,
speaking of great segues, go ahead.
This bear, which happens to be brown.
It is brown. It is, but it's not a brown bear.
But it's not a brown bear.
It's also not a black bear.
But those can also be brown.
They also can be.
I digress.
I think we both did.
Sal 399.
Yeah.
She is out of her den.
Yeah. So I think if I remember right, and I would have to go back to previous elk season podcasts.
Yeah, early season 1 we talked about 399.
Yeah, 399 had 3 cubs.
Yeah.
And we talked about her a few times that first year, and I think one of the times we heard that some of her cubs were attacked by another male.
Oh, yeah.
And so her cubs, and it's not like we constantly have spotters on 399 and we know every move she makes. When we see her, we know her.
We're not stalking.
And yeah, we're totally not stalking you. And besides, it gets cold at night.
Yeah.
But
I've got some apples.
But so we wonder if we're going to see 399. 399 is a very, very famous sow. She's given birth to so many cubs. And I think they saw her emerge from her den with a cub.
Oh.
So now I don't know. This will be follow-up. I don't know if this is one of the 3 cubs that she had. The reason why boars attack cubs is to send the sows into a new mating cycle.
Yeah.
A new mating cycle. So if he did kill the cubs, she did go into a new mating cycle. She could have given birth to a new cub. So I really don't know, but we'll look for updates. Everybody, those people up in Yellowstone follow 399 really close.
And listen to how much we don't know, which is also proof we're not stalking.
Yeah, we're totally not stalking you.
So
you were there Wednesday though, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So last podcast we talked about a grizzly bear that had been killed outside of Yellowstone.
Yes.
And so it turns out it was a Wyoming man who has been charged with killing this grizzly bear near Yellowstone. So
okay.
To be specific here, let's see, 14 miles from the eastern edge. So it's on the other side of the park from where we're at.
Yeah.
A gentleman from a place called Wapiti. So elk is in the
Wapiti.
Wapiti.
Nice.
All right. So Wapiti, Wyoming. A gentleman from Wapiti, Wyoming, told Fish and Game officials that he shot the 530-pound boar, mistakenly identifying it as a black bear.
530 pounds.
Yes. That's bigger than you and me right now.
Holy jeez.
That's
two. You think the 2 wrestlers from Wyoming, right?
Oh, yeah.
Those boys did not weigh us. They
No.
might out wrestled us.
No, right. No.
They definitely could out wrestle us. But 500-pound grizzly bear. Holy jeez.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So he.
Oh my gosh. Sorry, I am reeling at that, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, deer are 100 pounds, 150 pounds, 200 pounds. Elk are 600, 700, 800 pounds. They're really big. To put a bear in an elk category versus the black bear is like a big deer category.
Yeah.
Yeah, they might be a little bit bigger than a big deer, maybe 300-400 pounds, but still 500 pounds. Wow.
They're big boy.
Yeah.
So,
and I know they're bigger. I know they get bigger than
Wyoming's black bear season opened on May 1st, same day that he said he shot the bear. So he sees it and they're skinny. They've come out of their den. They don't he couldn't see the hump on its back, he said. And he didn't verify. There's the facial features too, which
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure a grizzly bear might get thinner in the face, but it's a flatter face.
Yes.
And so again, he didn't call immediately, but he did turn himself in.
Yeah, and their ears are a little more rounded. Their ears look like more like a teddy bear versus a black bear, a little more pointed like a cat.
Yeah, and so he kills it. He walks up on it and he
panics.
I think that's. I mean, yes, he should have called, but I also it's not to excuse the behavior. He turned himself in.
Yeah, that's a long walk back to the truck, by the way.
Yeah.
That's a long, hard walk.
What are you gonna do? Is I think in a way, he had to figure out in his mind because it's stressful.
Yeah.
You just killed a federally protected animal.
That
you didn't mean
sucks.
to.
Yeah.
But he did the right thing, and I would say to the Wyoming Department of Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, due diligence with the law, but cut the guy some slack with your rhetoric on he should have called immediately.
Yeah.
I think it's reasonable for somebody to kind of have a moment of
he turned himself in after it was found, though.
That is true.
You're going to lose points for that, buddy.
Yeah, there is that. So I guess
he turned himself
regard,
in. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm trying to find stuff to fill the space that we just don't have a lot of stories today. So I guess I got to go back on a little bit of what I said. But I would just say I don't have all the details to this, depending on when he turned himself in and when they found it. So it could have been, I don't know. It could have been that he went to figure out what to do about it, and while he's trying to figure that out, somebody else found it. So I mean, it still could have just been coincidental that it was found before, but then when it came out, I mean, think about it.
I want to give the guy the benefit of the doubt too. 100% benefit of the doubt.
Well,
you have to, when you hunt black bear, you have to make sure that there aren't cubs with them.
Yeah.
You get in big trouble. You have to take that animal into the fish and game and show them. And you have to remain evidence of sex, and on a female, on a boar or on a sow, those are her mammary glands.
Yeah.
And if they're still pumping fluid, they will be able to tell at fish and game.
Wow.
So you can't just kill a sow either. It's really crazy.
It's complicated.
So it is complicated. And Jared.
Do tell.
I got Jared stories, man.
All day long.
There's this country song that comes on all the time called "I Got Some Famous Friends."
Okay. See where you're going.
I got some famous friends. No, I don't have famous friends. I have a famous friend. He is responsible for all of my famous friend stories.
Yeah. There you go. That's Jared.
So, anyways, Jared, what was I even talking about? Oh, bear hunting.
Yeah.
Jared's out with Ben.
Okay.
They're out hunting. And Jared is like, oh, yeah, I see her. She doesn't have a cub. There's no cubs. Take the shot. Kaboom. Oh, you missed. Oh, no, never mind. There's cubs. There's cubs there. Don't shoot again. Oh, Jared. Oh.
Yeah.
So they got lucky on that, man. But you got to be careful. He's, he's a good buddy.
Anyway, people make mistakes, and again, due diligence with the law for that gentleman out of Wapiti. But it is what it is.
Yeah,
so.
I know another guy who's a very, very well respected hunter by me. And he had a friend who's like, oh, you hunt that? No kidding. Oh, I got some land. You got to come up here. You got to do this. Oh, it'll be great. You got dogs. I'll bring the dogs. It'll be great. I'll do this. He goes out there and he hunts on this guy's land. Turns out this guy didn't have permission. It's not his land. And so this guy gets in trouble, loses some hunting privileges. I mean, that's a real mess. So you really have to be careful who you're hunting with.
Yeah.
You really got to be careful.
Oh, I thought I had more information on this buffalo story.
Yeah?
But I'll have to go from memory.
Okay.
A recent study out of Kansas State University found that reintroducing bison to ecosystems. Well, what do you think it does to the ecosystem?
It depends on what ecosystem. The bison, evolved not just in the plains, but throughout most of the United States, through a lot of the United States. I mean, Buffalo, New York is Buffalo, New York.
Yeah.
So there was a lot. So what it does to an ecosystem. So some different things I would imagine it would do to an ecosystem. if there's good predation, right? They're not gonna herd up. They're not gonna be in as big of herds. They're
This is in comparison to cattle on equivalent land.
Yeah. Okay.
Bison being reintroduced to ecosystems more than doubles the plant diversity and richness, and it leads the land to being more resistant to drought.
That's insane. That's insane. So another fun statistic about buffalo is they only give birth about once every 3 years.
Wow.
Whereas beef cattle could do it once a year.
Wow.
That's an important, when you're feeding 7 billion people. I know we'd love to get back to an original ecosystem and just all be hunter-gatherers in our homes with Wi-Fi. But
I got my camera outside. I'm on my app though. I'm moving the camera, and I can see a buffalo grazing in the neighbor's yard.
Yeah. So that's important. We're gonna have that.
Get the automated turret.
Yeah. So I know there's benefits, great benefits to biodiversity. Are you familiar with the cowbird?
No.
Cowbirds. They call them cowbirds now, but they're really buffalo birds. And the buffalo birds, I just like the idea of the buffalo birds. The buffalo birds would follow the buffalo herds. And as the buffalo herds would run and dig up all of the good stuff that's under the earth, then these birds would feed on the, grubs and worms and stuff that are dug up by the buffalo moving. However, you can't have a nest if you're following a traveling herd.
Okay.
So you go and lay an egg in somebody else's nest. And your baby is bigger and stronger than those other babies, but a mama doesn't know the difference.
Oh my gosh.
She hatched you, and now your baby is going to starve out somebody else's 2 babies.
So the level of biological craziness that happens with that.
Yeah.
The symbiotic relationship between those bird species that are not the same species, but to have a genetic component that allows you to do that same behavior, even though you're going to learn from other birds, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But I've also learned about some, I think I don't know if it's all nesting birds, but I know there are nesting birds out there. If they're raised in captivity all by themselves, they don't have any other birds around, they don't learn from anything, they're just by themselves, and you give them materials to build a nest, they will do it.
Yeah.
So it's part of their DNA to build a nest.
Yeah.
No one taught them to. So it makes sense that could happen, but it's just mind-boggling how you think, because you hear about imprinting, and the first thing that a bird sees is going to, that's my mom or dad or whatever. And it's it's more complicated than that.
So much more complicated. So much more complicated.
Yeah, that instinctive drift stuff is really interesting.
So yeah, the when I think about the buffalo ecosystem, I think about the buffalo birds, and now they're just called cowbirds now, unfortunately. But just that idea alone, I think about the ecosystem. I go, wow. And I also, when I think about buffalo, I think about the trails back east that were about 1 or 2 buffaloes wide. That probably would have looked like roads if you had Google Earth from back then. They would just look like a road, and that's where the buffalo traveled. The reason the herds were so big out west, and I've heard agreeing arguments as to why the buffalo herds out west were so big. So one of the first things, from 1491 and 1493, from those books and from other books, American Serengeti is one I've read in recent years, or I think just in the past year. But all these buffalo, the Native Americans that inhabited the Great Plains had a habit of burning the grass. And they would burn the grass and the grass. That's why there's not a lot of trees. There should be a lot more trees in the Midwest. But because they burned, they would be burned on such regular cycles, the trees didn't have time to grow. And so there's just so much more grass. So now we have a whole bunch of buffalo and a whole bunch of predation on those buffalo.
Yeah.
They're basically farming the buffalo by burning this grass, making all these huge areas. Then contact is made with the West, and disease wipes out tens of thousands of Native Americans. Now
Yeah.
there's tens of thousands of Native Americans that don't need to eat.
Estimated in the hundreds of thousands.
I'm talking over a short period. I'm talking just in the Midwest.
Okay.
I know the era of American genocide.
I don't think you do.
Tragic and so enormous. But just for the sake of those hunting those giant buffalo herds.
Yeah.
So now there's fewer fires and there's less carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. The atmosphere, it actually cools because there's fewer Native American hunters burning the grass. But there's also an explosion of buffalo.
Yeah.
Because So now there's it's crazy dynamic. So I think about pre-contact and post-contact for those tribes in the Midwest and what all those millions of buffalo or however many buffalo there were. Then there were a bunch. Same with the passenger pigeon. Have you ever heard of the passenger pigeon? I don't know if there were billions of them before.
Right, but
there became millions and millions of them, and then there were zero.
Yep.
It's crazy story. Crazy story about what we do to the ecosystem.
That and dodo birds too.
And the dodos, yeah.
That was they were, and I didn't realize this about them until recently, according to a couple different.
I don't know too much about the dodo, but
this was according to a couple. I don't know if I didn't vet them, but this was a couple of different things on YouTube. So, and it's not the most historically, but they're two different people from two different parts of the world telling very similar stories. I think one of them was like Smithsonian Institute. So I guess one of them was maybe legit, but it had to do with, the island where the dodos lived. There were no natural predators for the bird.
Right.
And so they kind of just went around, and when man showed up, he brought predators with them. And so there's this, they don't run away from predators because they never learned to. So
right.
they're just not in their DNA. Coincidentally, I don't know if you've caught this, since we're out and doing some bizarre conservation conversations.
Ecology.
The island of Tasmania.
Yeah.
Have you heard about the researchers are not convinced that the Tasmanian devil is actually extinct?
Yeah. I hope it's not.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people hope it's not. And I hope they find something. Tasmania is an incredibly thick jungle. I follow some Tassie gold boys. And these guys go down in Tasmania and they go deep into this wilderness and they backpack, and then they backpack in, and they have to take 2 trips from the car to backpack. Then they have to take a 2.5 hour inflatable canoe downstream or upstream to where they're going to mine.
Wow.
And then when they're done mining, they have to go back downstream 2.5 hours to where they'd pack their stuff in.
Wow.
Anyways, they find some crazy good gold. And Sir Thomas Francis Meagher was held captive in Tasmania.
Yeah.
When after he was arrested in England. So anyways, that's everything I know about Tasmania is right there. But it's an interesting island. I know they have penguins and gold, and it's not as completely explored as some other places. So that'd be really cool if a Tasmanian devil showed up.
Yeah. And across in Australia, apparently, and I don't know the whole story here, but something about the platypus is making a comeback in some areas, and it's hard to see them in the wild because the numbers got so low. They're very reclusive, shy animals. But there are a couple of places where the restoration of these animals has started to blossom for them, and so there are actually more opportunities for people in Australia to see these duck-billed platypuses. So a very unique creature. Yeah, boggles my mind. Which category do you put it in?
Yeah,
reptile, bird,
or beaver?
Yeah.
That's an interesting. I didn't know they were in such trouble.
Yeah.
Really, duck-billed platypuses are endangered,
and they're just small little things. You'd think they're not big like a beaver. The pictures make them look bigger.
Yeah,
they're actually like about, I don't know. I have no
smaller than a
here.
Cat.
about the size of a cat, maybe.
Really?
Yeah, they're actually kind of small.
I saw a dead beaver on the highway.
Really?
Yes, between Mountain Home and Boise.
That sucks.
Well, that's a weird place to see a dead beaver, but it was definitely a dead beaver. It was right by some water, and you could tell, but the big flat tail. Anyways,
my question is, where was his parachute?
Where was his parachute? He's in Idaho. You were equipped with a parachute. It was slowing him down.
Yeah.
He was trying to run across the highway with a parachute.
He was doing his exercise.
So yeah, that's another great. I know you don't like the parachuting beaver. I think it's great.
What do you mean I don't like it? I just don't know about it.
You just made fun of it. That's all.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sensitive subject.
Sensitive subject. How dare you? The parachuting beavers, Idaho's greatest ecological success.
They weren't native to Idaho. They're a different speciation, a different. I mean, look at them.
Those are Norway beavers.
Yeah,
they're killing our trees. Worser than they're killing other things.
Worse than Home Depot is.
Okay, so, I guess that means we're running out of material.
I think it is. I think that's a good sign.
We'll be back next week where it will be less than 100 days until elk season.
That's wow.
Don't skip leg day.
Yeah. Go find some bags of concrete. That'll wake you up. Wake you up real quick.
Just put them in a backpack and go for a walk.
I had trouble moving for 2 days.
I am not surprised. That's awful.
And it was good. My body needed to be woken up like that.
Right. It's a good sore.
Yeah.
It's hurt, not injured.
Yes. All right.
We'll
cheers.
see you next week. Goodbye.